What's up, guys? So it's a beautiful day out here, but I thought I'd come out and do something different today, kind of a how-to video. I've had a lot of guys ask me about how I fish a lipless crankbait. A lot of people aren't comfortable fishing them, and they either don't know how to work the bait or they don't have the right gear for the bait. So I'm going to show you what I use and the different techniques that I use to fish them. Alright, so first things first, my favorite color to throw is a black and gold live target. This is called their Shiner lipless crankbait. I've caught more fish on this lure than worms or jigs or anything else. Most of the time it gets me numbers. Every now and then you'll get a nice 6-pounder with it. The biggest bass I ever got on this is a 6-pounder. But it's my favorite lure. That's usually the first thing I grab. I start searching. It's a fast lure. It's more like a power fishing lure. A lot of guys call it a search bait because you're searching for where the bass are. But I use the 1/2 ounce because I like the depth I can get it to, and I can work it in the water column the way I want it. They do make it in a 1/4 ounce. I usually only throw that if the fish are eating, you know, a little higher in the water column or more in the shallow areas, maybe a lot of grass. That way I don't get the 1/2 ounce too deep. So I'll throw a 1/4 ounce in there, and it still produces all the numbers. But I like the 1/2 ounce because of how far I can cast it and the way I can work it. Now, Live Target did make these in a 3/4 ounce. This is in the silver shiner color. I've caught a lot of fish on this one as well, but the only time I really throw a 3/4 ounce is when the fish are real deep. I'll throw the 3/4 ounce and just let it sink and roll it right off the bottom. It has a little different action than a 1/2 ounce. It has like a more of a slower wobble and a wider wobble, but I'll let it sink to the bottom, usually where the fish are held up deeper. So again, my favorite color is the black and gold. If you notice, I have a black and gold in a lot of different brands, but my favorite is the Live Target. And a lot of times I listen for the beads as well. I'm not sure how the audio is going to pick this up, but the beads in this lure right here are small ball bearings. So if you listen, they have more of a smaller rattle, if you want to call it that. This one right here is by Booyah Bait, again black and gold. This one has a larger ball bearing, like a 1-knocker I think it's called. Another one that I like to throw is the Strike King Red Eye Shad. But as you can see, their lure, it doesn't hold up. They get a lot of hook rash on theirs. And this, I've had one of them do this after 1 day of fishing. All right, so let's talk about the gear real quick. Obviously, the lipless crankbait is a sinking bait. So you can let this sink all the way to the bottom and just pop it up if you want. But you want to have a line that sinks. So I always use fluorocarbon. The line I use most of the time is either 12 or 15 pound fluorocarbon, because if you're going to pull this bait through a lot of grass and hydrilla and things like that. So you want to have some strong line where you can rip it out of there real quick. Right here is a favorite Phantom. It's a 7-foot medium heavy. I usually like to throw a medium or medium heavy, something with a little backbone on it. But what you want to make sure you do, and probably what a lot of guys mess up too, is make sure that tip has a little flexibility in it. If your rod doesn't have a lot of flexibility, then you need to worry about how you're going to set your drag. Because you got to think about these little treble hooks. If you have a stiff rod with a tight drag and you go to set that hook, you're going to rip those hooks right out of the fish's mouth. Or when you get up to the boat and he jumps, he's going to spit them out because those holes are now like this big. So always think about your drag. If you notice in my drag how I have it set here, it's not even that tight. So when I go to set that hook, I'm pulling those hooks into the fish's mouth, but I'm not ripping them out. So just always make sure your drag is set properly so you're not pulling those treble hooks out. The reel, I always like to use at least minimum a 7-to-1, but most of the time I prefer a 7-to-5. This is a Lew's Speed Spool. It's done really well for me. It's a 7.5-to-1. Yeah, that's my setup. Just a quick recap. Nice strong rod, softer tip if you have it. If you don't, set your drag right to where you're not ripping the hooks out of the fish's mouth. Nice fast reel, 7.5. That's usually my go-to, is 7.5. 12 to 15 pound fluorocarbon is what I like, mainly because you're pulling that through some thick grass sometimes. And a lot of times that's when you get those big strikes, is when you get tangled up in the grass and it stops and you pop it out of the grass. Poop, and then the bass, you can't resist it. It's a reaction strike. All right, so first things first, you got to know your body of water. If you don't know your body of water, you'll probably figure it out real quick throwing a lipless crankbait. It's really good for that reason. You can find out where all the grass is. I'm going to start searching this area, and the best thing about a lipless crankbait is you can cover a lot of water really fast. So I'm going to start fan casting along these lily pads, and then I'm going to work it all the way around over here, and then I'll move further down the lily pads and I'll start working that area over there. So first things first, the easiest way to fish a lipless crank is just to roll it in, just swim it. I just felt some grass because I can feel it. You can feel your lipless crankbait vibrating in the tip of your rod. So if I feel it stop vibrating and I feel like a little tug, that means I hit some grass. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pop it right out of that grass. So I'm going to take the tip of the rod and just pop it up. A lot of times that's when you'll get the strike. So you can see here, I know there's a lot of grass or hydrilla over there right there. So let's go do it again. So I need to work it faster, keep it right on top of the grass, or just pop it. Pop. I feel some grass. Pop. I feel some more grass. Pop. And I'm reeling at a nice rate. Pop. So that's another one of the ways you can work it, is give it just, you can just keep on popping it. And I'm going to cast over the same spot several times, working it different ways. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. So I know there's shallow grass in this area. I'm going to start transitioning to maybe a deeper area. Let's go see if there's some fish out there. So the deeper you fish it, the slower I can work it, because I need to get it down a little deeper in the water column. So let's give it a shot. Oh, there's a fish. Out there towards the middle. A little deeper water. Jigging it up and down. Oh, it looks like a better fish too. Where's he at? Where's he at? Keep the pressure on him, you know. Here he comes to jump. Oh, that's a nicer fish. There we go. When they jump, that's the worst for these lipless cranks, because like I said, they can get ripped out of their mouth. So I usually try to get it right at the edge of the boat, and then I'll try to flip it. Boom! Look at that. All right. Hey. Calm down, buddy. There we go. That's what I'm talking about right there. Probably in about 10 feet of water. Just jigging it up and down. It's a nice fish. What do you think? Look at that. How pretty. That's the Booyah Baits. That's the one knocker. Black and gold lipless crankbait. So let's take a look at the holes. So look at that hole right there that I ripped in his mouth. Again, that's with even loose drag. So look how easy that came out. If he had jumped just the right angle, it would have popped out. So you got to keep the pressure on him. Work him in nice and slow. When I'm pulling these fish in, I don't usually pull, and I'm not sitting there trying to crank him in as fast as I can. I try to work him, because I want that hook to stay right where it's at. I don't want to rip it open, and I don't want that fish to go crazy and shake and get it out. So I try to ease them in. Once I get it to the boat, I just try to do a nice flip. So there you go. Oh, there's a fish. Oh, he got that one on the drop. I think it's another decent one. I think the bigger ones are out deeper today. There we go. I thought it was a little bigger than that, but still, nice fish. He got that one while I was jigging it out there. I paused and let it drop for a second, and he nailed it. Whoa. Not very graceful. So those last two fish, if I look behind me here, I got these lily pads, right? This right on the edge of the lily pads is about maybe 5 feet deep. I know, looking at the navionics of my lake, about maybe 25 yards out, this drops drastically, maybe from 8 feet to about 15 to 20 feet. There's just a drop off right out here. It's just a nice little drop off line. So what I'm doing is I'm throwing this out there and I'm letting it sink a little fast, or a little more than usual, and then I'm starting to pop it and let it sink, popping it and then let it sink. So that's what I did with those last 2 fish, and they both came off maybe about 20 yards from each other of popping this lure right by that drop off here. So I'm going to keep working this drop off. Fish on. I was just swimming that one in that time. Look at that little guy right there. Came up and nailed it. Little dude eating the... I switched over to a 3/4 ounce so I could fish the drop off. This little guy came up and had it. Yeah, you little dude. Little guy. Getting the little ones today. Little squeaker. Whoop. These buoys right here, it's about 15 feet deep. So now I'm casting towards the shallow end and pulling the lure over the drop off this time. So instead of being over there and pulling it up the drop off, now I'm pulling it over the drop off. See if I can get a different bite. So that was like second cast, and I just got that little guy over here. So fish. Bunch of little ones out there. I think I found all the dinks. Oh, see right there? They just shake a little bit and they're out. There we go. All right, little dude's out. All right, so that's it. So like I said, I switched over to the 3/4 ounce. This is called a 2-tap. I think it's by Strike King. So that's how I usually fish a lipless crankbait. It's a really versatile lure. If you're not comfortable with it, just get out there and use it, practice with it. You can cover a lot of water, a lot of different areas. You know, sometimes I'll pull it through the lily pads. You'll get snagged a lot of times, but if you have some openings, you can rip it through there. The places where it really shines are those underwater grass. You want to try to get that lure right over the tips of those grass, so you're just popping it, pop, 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 right over the grass like that. I have a lot of hydrilla blooms in this lake, so a lot of times I'll try to find what depth the hydrilla is, and then I'll just start just tick the top of those hydrilla blooms, and those bass just come out of there and nail it. It's a great search bait to try to find a pattern or break down the bite. As you saw earlier, I was throwing it in some shallow water and some medium type water. I was jigging it, I was popping it, I was ripping it. What really seemed to work though was right here where the drop off was, so that I found a lot of bass real deep. So this time I just let it drop as low as I can get it, and then I start slowly rolling it in. You know, you can jig it deep too. There's no difference there. But it's my favorite lure. If you're not comfortable with it, get out there and use it, practice with it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I hope you enjoyed watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know what you thought about the footage from this. It's the first time using it on the shoulder mount, the GoPro Karma grip. Not sure, you know, let me know. I've used the shoulder mount before, but the image is always crooked because of the mount. Hopefully this is a little more stabilized and always focused on what I'm fishing with. But let me know if you like it. I think it's pretty neat. But yeah, thanks for watching. Tight lines. See you guys later.